When you think of Saturday Night Live, the first thought that comes to mind is probably not Oscar. So many talented performers have appeared on the show since it premiered in 1975, and many have gone on to have major film careers, like Chevy Chase, Adam Sandler, and Will Ferrell, to name a few. But some former cast members of SNL have gone on to receive Oscar nominations, an early example being Dan Aykroyd in the Best Supporting Actor category for his performance in Driving Miss Daisy, the Best Picture winner at the 1990 Academy Awards. Aykroyd had zero chance to take the gold trophy that night, up against Denzel Washington for Glory. The first SNL alum to have a significant shot at an Oscar win was Bill Murray, nominated for lead actor in 2004 for his sublime turn in Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation. He won the Golden Globe and BAFTA award, but he lost the Academy Award to Sean Penn. Joan Cusack was briefly on SNL in the 1985 to 1986 season, and she's been Oscar nominated twice, with no wins. Robert Downey Jr. was also on the show that season, and he's been nominated twice too, with no wins. Kristen Wiig was nominated for her Bridesmaid screenplay. Adam Sandler should have been nominated for Uncut Gems, but that's a video for another time. The Saturday Night Live alum we're talking about in today's video is the one who far and away got the closest to an Oscar victory, Eddie Murphy, in the Best Supporting Actor category for his dazzling performance in Dreamgirls, starring Beyoncé and Jamie Foxx, and directed by Bill Condon. This end-of-the-year musical had Oscar written all over it, many predicting it to be a major contender in the picture, director, and acting categories months before its December release. The film slightly underperformed on Oscar nominations morning, something we'll get into, but two top categories looked to be near certainties. Jennifer Hudson was a lock to win Best Supporting Actress for her electric debut performance as Effie White, her applause-worthy delivery of "And I Am Telling You I'm Not Going," a highlight of the film. And then there was Eddie Murphy, whose spectacular against-type dramatic turn as James Early was one awards voters just couldn't ignore. At the Golden Globes, both Hudson and Murphy won in the supporting categories. The same thing happened shortly thereafter at Critics' Choice, and then the same thing happened again at SAG. Yeah, their chances for Oscar glory was looking very, very good. They might have only been on their first nominations, but there was a lot of love that season for Hudson and Murphy, and it looked like they were winning. It seemed almost certain. On the night of the Academy Awards, indeed it was Jennifer Hudson's name George Clooney called from the stage, as expected. No surprise there, but Rachel Weisz, the previous year's Best Supporting Actress winner for The Constant Gardener, opened the Best Supporting Actor envelope and said this.
Alan Arkin in Little Miss Sunshine.
Wait, what? Alan Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine? In the acting categories at least, this moment marked one of the most shocking Oscar wins of the last 20 years. Eddie Murphy had won almost every precursor award leading up to the big night, and then he lost the Oscar. How did this happen? How did Alan Arkin take the prize instead? In this video, I'm going to talk about the Best Supporting Actor race at the 79th Academy Awards and discuss how Alan managed to defeat Eddie. First, let's start with the nominees. The person in the Best Supporting Actor category, I would argue, had zero chance to win, was the person nominated for the movie that won the Oscars for Best Picture and Best Director. Yes, The Departed was the big winner at the 2007 ceremony, taking the Best Picture prize and finally winning Martin Scorsese his much overdue Academy Award for Best Director. Still to date, his one and only. The Departed is filled top to bottom with excellent performances, but in some ways the ensemble was so impressive that it was hard to give individual nominations and prizes to its cast members. Leonardo DiCaprio was expected to receive a Best Actor nomination for The Departed that year, but then he surprised an Oscar nominations morning, being recognized for his other fall release movie, Blood Diamond. Matt Damon was overlooked, Vera Farmiga was overlooked. Still shocking to this day, I think, is Jack Nicholson not being nominated for his stellar turn, even though he was recognized at the Golden Globes and is to date the most nominated male actor ever in Oscar history. Early in his career, he got a supporting actor nomination for Easy Rider. How cool would it have been for him to have ended his career with a supporting actor nomination for The Departed? But no, the supporting actor nod for The Departed went instead to Mark Wahlberg, an actor who had done a few solid performances up until that point, especially in Boogie Nights, but he hadn't been taken seriously come awards time. He was so funny and magnetic in The Departed, however, that his performance of Staff Sergeant Dignam just couldn't be overlooked.
My theory on feds is they're like mushrooms. Feed them shit and keep them in the dock. Girls have a good day.
Despite all the heavyweight actors in the cast surrounding him, Wahlberg was a clear standout, nominated for a Golden Globe along with Nicholson, before being singled out on Oscar nominations morning. But this being The Departed's only nod for acting didn't help Wahlberg's chances, neither did this being his first ever Oscar nomination, and his being overlooked at Critics' Choice, SAG, and BAFTA. His Academy Award nomination for The Departed, still his only one for acting to this day, was in and of itself the win for Wahlberg. Another actor who didn't have much of a shot at the Best Supporting Actor prize was Djimon Hounsou, nominated for his performance in Blood Diamond. Directed by Edward Zwick and starring Leonardo DiCaprio, who was nominated in the lead actor category for the same film, Blood Diamond tells of a fisherman, a smuggler, and a syndicate of businessmen who match wits over the possession of a diamond.
I said tell him where it is! Tell him where it is now! Tell him! No.
I would argue Hounsou had a slightly better chance in the category than Wahlberg, given that he was on his second Oscar nomination after he was recognized 3 years prior for In America. I think part of the problem here might have been that Hounsou was essentially the second lead of Blood Diamond, so votes for his performance might have gone to DiCaprio instead. Also, while he did get in at Critics' Choice and SAG, he missed at BAFTA and the Golden Globes, which showed he was vulnerable in the category. I think ultimately, there just wasn't enough passion for the film or his performance to get him to cross the finish line, but he is terrific in the movie, and I hope he can receive a third Academy Award nomination for something very soon. If there was a potential spoiler in the supporting actor category, I think it was Jackie Earle Haley for his challenging turn as a convicted sex offender in Todd Field's Little Children, one of my 3 favorite films of 2006, alongside United 93 and Children of Men, as Ronnie, recently released from prison and struggling to live a normal life in the face of so much derision in his community, Haley returned to movie screens after a long hiatus from acting. He was best known for a long while for his turns in The Bad News Bears and Breaking Away, films released in the 1970s, but by the early 1990s, he was only making the occasional B-movie before he stepped behind the camera for more than a decade to direct commercials. Finally, with the help of Sean Penn, Haley secured a small role in the 2006 drama flop All the King's Men, but then Kate Winslet, who also appeared in that film, recommended Haley to Todd Field for the role of Ronnie in Little Children.
Fine. I'll do it if it'll make you happy, but just one date, all right?
Ronnie would have been a difficult role for any actor to play, but Haley finds just the right note in every scene, showing his regrets, his demons, his pain. It's a revelatory performance, one that might have been overlooked by a large chunk of Academy voters for being so disturbing, and that's what looked likely to happen after Haley was passed over at both the Golden Globe Awards and the Critics' Choice Awards. Kate Winslet, on the other hand, was being nominated everywhere for her tremendous turn in Little Children, but it wasn't until the Screen Actors Guild Awards that Haley finally made it into the final 5. He wasn't nominated at BAFTA. It looked like SAG would be the only recognition, but then Little Children received 3 Oscar nominations, one for Winslet in lead actress, one for Todd Field and Tom Perrotta in adapted screenplay, and one for Haley in supporting actor. I would argue Haley had a slightly better chance at an Oscar victory over Wahlberg and Hounsou, because for anyone who actually saw Little Children, the Haley performance was just so out of nowhere remarkable and hard to quickly forget. There's a lot to admire about Todd Field's film, based on the equally terrific Tom Perrotta novel, and Haley's performance is up there as one of its finest achievements. The actor also had a winning comeback narrative too, someone who people loved decades prior, but then tossed aside and forgotten about once he became an adult. A win for Haley would have been shocking, to be sure, but I still think it was possible. Not that any of those 3 men were really ever going to take it, of course. The Best Supporting Actor Oscar was always coming down to either Alan Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine or Eddie Murphy for Dreamgirls. Let's start with Murphy, who for most of the 2007 award season looked to be a near lock to win the gold trophy, after a long and popular film career that resulted in very few major awards nominations. It can be hard for a comedy actor to ever be taken seriously. After all, sure, Murphy got recognized by the Golden Globes a lot, especially in the beginning. For his film debut, 48 Hours, he was nominated for Best New Star of the Year. Then he was nominated for Best Actor in a motion picture, musical, or comedy for Trading Places and Beverly Hills Cop. He continued making hit films over the next 20 years, like Bowfinger and The Nutty Professor, the latter of which also got Murphy a Golden Globe nomination, but he had his share of flops too, like Beverly Hills Cop 3 and Vampire in Brooklyn. By the mid-2000s, he was struggling to choose good films, Murphy appearing in disappointments like The Haunted Mansion and full-on disasters like The Adventures of Pluto Nash. He was still a major movie star, of course, but outside of his voice work in Shrek, which netted him a very cool BAFTA Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, his career was kind of on life support. And to change things around, he really needed Dreamgirls, about a trio of black female soul singers who crossed over to the pop charts in the early 1960s.
I can't sing no more sad songs. Hey, Curtis, this is supposed to be your night, right? Let's have some happy times. Brian, I'm gonna give you a count off.
What the hell's he doing?
1, 2, 3, hit me!
Murphy wasn't exactly seeking out the role of legendary R&B star James Thunder Early, and he wasn't sure at first if he should take a salary cut to appear as part of an ensemble, but reportedly it was DreamWorks co-founders Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen who finally convinced Murphy to sign on. He might not have been sure about taking the project on at first, but he was sure happy about it later, especially when award season commenced in early 2007. This was a new, exciting side of Murphy, one that rarely got a chance to shine on screen. The singing, the dancing, the energy, the well-earned dramatic moments, especially in the second half, and voters noticed his stellar work right away. At the Golden Globes, Dreamgirls did very well, winning Best Supporting Actress for Jennifer Hudson and Best Motion Picture, Comedy or Musical, and up against heavy hitters like Jack Nicholson, Eddie Murphy won the trophy for Best Supporting Actor. He went on quickly thereafter to take the Supporting Actor prizes at both Critics' Choice and the Screen Actors Guild Awards. He was winning everything. Dreamgirls slightly disappointed on Oscar nominations morning. It made it into 8 categories, which was great, but it didn't make it into Director or Picture, which wasn't so great, but Murphy received his first Oscar nomination, as expected, and he was absolutely the frontrunner to win. The gold trophy wasn't going to Wahlberg, Honshu, or Haley. That was almost a certainty. There was really only one person who could have feasibly stopped him in a surprise victory, and that was Alan Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine. Alan Arkin had for decades been a reliably great actor, one who showed up in large roles, supporting roles, movies of every genre, going back to the 1960s. He came onto the cinema scene in a big way in The Russians Are Coming, which earned Arkin his first Oscar nomination, this one for Best Actor. Just 2 years later, he got a second Oscar nomination for Best Actor in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Between those celebrated performances and his chilling turn in Wait Until Dark, starring Audrey Hepburn, Arkin was able to carve out a career for himself that went in any direction he desired. However, by 2006, his film career was pretty well flatlined, Arkin appearing in junk studio movies like Firewall and The Santa Claus 3: The Escape Clause. Thankfully, in the midst of all that junk, came his delightful turn as Grandpa Edwin in the Sundance Film Festival breakout hit Little Miss Sunshine, about a family determined to get their daughter into the finals of a beauty pageant.
A real loser is somebody that's so afraid of not winning, they don't even try. Now you're trying, right? Well, then you're not a loser.
Arkin is endlessly charming as the grandfather of the family, saying the wrong things, being the most childish of the bunch, and always being the greatest champion for Little Olive, played by Abigail Breslin, who received an Oscar nomination herself for Best Supporting Actress. Their scenes together are absolutely wonderful, some of the best of the movie, and Arkin's addition to the amazing ensemble cast, which includes Gray Kinnear, Toni Collette, Paul Dano, and Steve Carell, makes the piece complete. Arkin is daring, alive, uninhibited. It's a wildly original performance that sticks with you long after the film is ended. But he also leaves the movie pretty early on, and although Little Miss Sunshine certainly overperformed throughout award season, winning Best Performance by a Cast at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, receiving 6 BAFTA Award nominations, and 4 Oscar nominations, 1 for Best Picture, Alan Arkin himself wasn't actually winning much. He didn't even get a Globe nomination, and then Murphy defeated him in Best Supporting Actor at Critics' Choice and SAG. Arkin was a well-regarded actor, to be sure, but it's not like he was giving one great film performance after another for decades, racking up tons and tons of Oscar nominations. Little Miss Sunshine marked Arkin's first Academy Award nod since The Heart is a Lonely Hunter nearly 40 years earlier. So he didn't really have that overdue factor, and he's in so little of the movie, it didn't seem to be enough to overtake Eddie Murphy on Academy Awards night. Yes, as expected, Murphy was going to be the first SNL alum to win an Oscar for acting, his marvelous turn in Dreamgirls more than worthy. And so it seemed surprising to even Alan Arkin himself when Rachel Weisz called his name instead to collect the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. And even though he claps after the reading of the winner, Eddie Murphy is visibly disappointed. He reportedly left the show shortly thereafter with his then girlfriend and did not return. So why did Alan Arkin take the Best Supporting Actor trophy? Where did Eddie Murphy ultimately come up short? Here are the top 5 reasons. The first reason, and one of the most important, is that, in the simplest terms, more people just like Little Miss Sunshine more than they like Dreamgirls. Little Miss Sunshine made a huge splash at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2006, and then it hung on for the rest of the year and beyond, earning a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, releasing to theaters around the country that August, and making more than $100 million worldwide on an $8 million budget. Dreamgirls came out at the prime awards date of mid-December, where it made $150 million worldwide, but that was on an $80 million budget, and it only made it to a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. Dreamgirls was liked, to be sure, but there wasn't that strong passion for it that people like me had at the time for Little Miss Sunshine. The second reason is that Alan Arkin was overall the more respectable actor, someone who had more dramatic credits to his name, and not to mention 2 previous Oscar nominations. It always helps someone take the Oscar, at least a little bit, if they already have a couple nominations behind them, especially without a win, and Arkin had enough cred to push him a few notches toward the Best Supporting Actor finish line. He had also given terrific performances in films like Catch-22, directed by Mike Nichols, Edward Scissorhands, directed by Tim Burton, along with Glengarry Glen Ross, Grosse Point Blank, Slums of Beverly Hills, and so many others. His films and performances didn't always connect, but more often than not they did, and he gave the performance of a lifetime in Little Miss Sunshine.
And then the recognition continues. You have this nomination.
Yeah.
Is it enjoyable?
A lot of it is, yeah. I mean, I've been part of it. The thing that's been the most enjoyable aspect of it is getting phone calls from people I haven't spoken to in 10, 15, sometimes 20 years, calling and really genuinely seem to be happy for me, and that's very moving.
The third reason is that Little Miss Sunshine got into Best Picture at the Academy Awards, while Dreamgirls, shockingly, did not. Halfway through 2006, one of the surefire Best Picture contenders looked to be Dreamgirls, with the musicals Moulin Rouge and Chicago getting into the category a few years before, with the Oscar-winning director Bill Condon at the helm. With its stunning ensemble cast, it just looked to be a sure thing. And while it did rack up lots of acting and technical nominations, it was passed over for both director and picture, which showed the film didn't have the full love and support of Academy voters. In addition, Little Miss Sunshine took the top prize at the Producers Guild Awards, beating out Oscar frontrunners like The Departed, and suddenly, the little indie movie that could became a potential spoiler to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. So many voters, it appeared, were watching and adoring Little Miss Sunshine, the film not only taking the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, but also Best Original Screenplay for Michael Arndt.
When I was a kid, my family drove 600 miles in a VW bus with a broken clutch. So it ended up being the funnest things we did together. So to my brothers, Chan, Dave, and Chris, to my mom who's here tonight, and to my dad who's with us in spirit, this is for you. Thank you.
The fourth reason is that Alan Arkin took the Best Supporting Actor prize at the BAFTA Awards, where Eddie Murphy wasn't nominated. He won Best Supporting Actor at the Film Independent Spirit Awards too, and he was part of the winning ensemble at SAG. These wins showed that the buzz around Dreamgirls was slowly dying in the weeks leading up to the Oscar ceremony, while the buzz around Little Miss Sunshine just kept growing and growing. Even though Little Miss Sunshine had premiered at Sundance more than a year before, awards voters were seemingly still discovering the comedy, word of mouth pushing it all the way to the top, Arkin not winning the initial awards of the season, but absolutely taking the last big ones as the season came to an end. Although The Departed became the eventual winner for Best Picture, I would argue Little Miss Sunshine came very close, and that intense support for the movie kept giving Arkin the nudge he needed.
More than anything, I am deeply moved by the open-hearted appreciation our small film has received, which in these fragmented times speaks so openly of the possibility of innocence, growth, and connection.
The fifth and final reason I think Alan Arkin won the Oscar over Eddie Murphy is Norbit. Oh yes, we have to talk about Norbit. I believe a big reason Murphy lost his Oscar was due to his critically reviled gross-out comedy coming out right in the midst of Academy voting for the 2006 movies. The advertising for Norbit everywhere you looked, on billboards, on buses, on TV commercials. There were likely some Academy voters already hesitant to mark Murphy's name on the ballot based on so many comedies he'd made in the past, and then at the worst possible time, there came Norbit, registering a mere 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics calling it racially insensitive. With fat-shaming caricatures, the movie was released on February 9th, mere weeks after Oscar nominations were announced and soon before the end of Oscar voting. Some thought of Norbit as the worst movie Eddie Murphy had ever made, and thus his chances to win an Academy Award for Dreamgirls suddenly took a major hit. At the end of the day, we'll never know for sure if Norbit was the key ingredient that took away Murphy's Oscar, but I would bet the 2007 comedy, especially the widespread advertising campaign for it, didn't help at all.
What are you talking about? Black people won Oscars. I said, well, black actors and actresses that have won Oscars throughout 60 years was like, I think Hattie McDaniels won the first one, then Sidney Poitier won one, and Lou Gossett won one. And I'll probably never win an Oscar for saying this, but hey, what the hey, I gotta say it. Actually, I might not be in any trouble because the way it's been going is about every 20 years we get one, so we ain't due for about 2004, so by that time it's all blown over.
In the years since, Eddie Murphy has come close to a second Oscar nomination only once for his bravura performance in 2019's Dolomite Is My Name, while Alan Arkin has received one more Oscar nod for his excellent turn in Argo, the Best Picture winner of 2012. If Arkin had lost the Academy Award for Little Miss Sunshine, he might have been the surprise winner for Argo, given that the Best Supporting Actor race in early 2013 was anyone's game, different actors winning at almost every precursor ceremony. However, it sadly looks like Dreamgirls might have been Murphy's only chance at Oscar glory. We shall see, and we'll also see if a cast member from Saturday Night Live will ever, one day, win the Academy Award.
And there was also some confusion about whether or not it was an award or a prize. And and actually it's an award. Even though they call it a prize, it's an award, because usually when there's a prize, there's money involved. But I thought I was gonna get some paper. I was like, yo, Mark Twain Award at Kennedy Center, that sounded like paper.
When it came to the 2007 ceremony, it was only Best Supporting Actor that gave us a shocker win. I don't know about you, but I love shocker wins. It's so boring when the same person wins every award the entire season. Like in early 2020, when the same four people won the Globe, and SAG, and Oscar. It's boring. I like a surprise here and there. I like the announcement of a winner that makes us all gasp. It happened when Alan Arkin won the Oscar for Little Miss Sunshine, and it certainly happened a year later when the glorious Tilda Swinton took the Best Supporting Actress prize for her turn in Michael Clayton. But more on that Oscar race in the weeks to come. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, And let me know in the comments below who you wanted to win Best Supporting Actor at the 79th Academy Awards. Was Alan Arkin the right choice, or should Eddie Murphy have taken it? See you next time.